Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra of Emor, and we are dedicating this learning for the speedy and safe release of all of the people kidnapped from Gaza and the safety and success of all of the soldiers in their missions to protect the people of Israel. And just having marked the days of Yom HaZikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut, Remembrance Day and Independence Day in Israel this year, where I am. And I feel that all of these messages are so much more poignant and deeply etched into our psyche and really giving us relevance to the words of the Torah as we live them in the land of Israel, as we go through these challenges. And although they are serious challenges and we are in the throes of them, the overall message and I believe that the strength that is shown, and it's not always apparent in what one sees and what one reads, the media is something that brings a lot of bad energy, I think, in its wake. But I believe and feel so strongly that in everything that's going on, there is such a strong connection and sanctity of life, Kedushat HaChaim, which is really, I would say, two of the fundamental lessons that we'll come to in this week's Sedra, and how relevant and how poignant as we are experiencing and enduring what we're enduring, and really to understand that the message is that the Torah, and by adhering to the values of the Torah, all of Am Yisrael Chai, and we are really embracing and sanctifying life. And as a contrast, our enemies are a death cult and are the absolute opposite. And really, this is something that should give us the courage and the confidence, as always, but especially now. And I call this idea the true and only higher education, the themes that I want to focus on in this week's Sedra. And the two ideas are the mitzvot that are given. It's a mitzvah-laden Sedra, 8 Sedra in the book of Vayikra, and containing 63 mitzvot. And we are, the opening verses are specifically addressed to the Kohanim, to the priests. And we'll just have a look at those words and also the Rashi on those words. And we'll come to, so it's chapter 21, verse 1. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Emor el HaKohanim b'nei Aaron. And Hashem says to Moshe, say to the priests, the sons of Aaron, Va'amarta alehem lenefesh lo yitama ba'amov. And say to them, let no priest become ritually impure through contact with a dead person when there are others among his people who can attend to the burial. And so with this, Rashi comments, Emor el HaKohanim, Emor va'omarta. Rashi picks up on the fact there is a double expression, Vayomer va'omarta, and we could, in theory, have managed with just one, grammatically. So Rashi says the reason, because we never have a superfluous word in the Torah, Lehizaher gedolim al haktanim, to literally to warn the older, and in the context of this particular verse, the older priests on the children, on the young priests. And so we have a number of concepts here in terms of higher education, and picking up on a talk by Rav Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Zatzal, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he pointed out that this is a concept of higher education. This Rashi explains that the more senior priests need to educate and to be very particular about educating. And the word that Rashi uses is lehizaher, which actually means to warn, because we might have expected that if we're talking about education, that we would have the verb lelamed, to teach. But this concept of a warning, and it occurred to me that it's a very interesting educational precept, because when you are educating, whether it's your children, whether it's your students, people you learn with, people around you, and you are somehow passing on a message, if you tell people what to do, that can sometimes elicit a pushback reaction. But if you warn them of the dangers and the pitfalls, or you highlight the importance of something so that it shouldn't be dismissed, it shouldn't be taken lightly, then you are presenting the facts. We call the halachic compendium the Shulchan Aruch, the laid out table. You're putting things down before them, and you're giving them the tools to prevent making a mistake or to take something seriously. But you're not saying do this, do that. There may be times and there may be stages in development when actually one has to just say do this, do that. But as an educational precept, I think certainly as children get older, as people get older, and they have their own opinions, then I believe that a more effective way of getting people to do the right thing is not to make the choice for them, but to just present them with all the facts. And I think that this is very tellingly included in the idea of warning, that you, when we're talking about things that one needs to do, things that one should refrain from doing, then it's really about warning that the words of the Torah are there for our benefit, for us to perform. And sometimes we might think we know better, but actually let it be a warning to us that we don't. And so, although this is addressed specifically to the priests, this verse, we have been told before we receive the Sedra, that before we receive the Torah in the Sedra of Yisro, and that is in Shemos chapter 19, verse 6, that Hashem calls us, Va'atem tihiyu li, and you will be to me, Mamleches Kohanim, a kingdom of priests, V'goy Kodosh, and a holy nation. So we are not all priests eligible to serve in the Bet HaMikdash, in the temple. That is specifically for those born into the priestly caste. However, we bear the honorary title. People give out honorary degrees. And as I was thinking about the various lessons in this week's Sedra, I was reflecting on the Torah as the true and only higher education. And really, when you look at what's happening in what used to be called sort of the top universities, the top echelons of places of higher education, and you see the ignorance and the evil that is just being allowed to gush out of these erstwhile very respected and looked up to places, that really the values and the ways of the Torah shine ever eternally brightly, and in comparison, these so-called places of higher education don't even deserve the title of lower education. But that was just, again, looking at what's happening around us today through the prism of what we read this very week in the Torah. So this idea that we are, all of us, not just the Kohanim, but also each and every one of us, have got this mission, have got this capability to access higher education. If we are privileged to be doing that, we are able to spread this message of higher education. And this, just we've met this in the Torah in other places, the concept of teaching, transmitting future generations, the precepts of the Torah. And this, another subject matter in this week's Sedra, is the festivals that we celebrate, that are also mentioned in this week's Sedra. And specifically, because we have the Sedras, the Shalosh Regalim, the 3 foot festivals, we have mention of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur as well in this week's Sedra. But possibly at first sight, almost surprisingly, We also have included the verses that give us the mitzvah of Sefirat HaOmer, of counting the period between Pesach and Shavuot. And if I would have been asked honestly, would I put this particular mitzvah on par with the mitzvah of the Shalosh Regalim, the three festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Perhaps the answer would have been no. But the fact that it is included with all of these very significant markers in our annual calendar is an indication of the importance of this time period and how nothing is random, how we always read this passage that tells us about the commandment to count the Sefirat HaOmer, to mark this period, and we always read it in the month of Iyar, and the month of Iyar contains the days of Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. Nothing is random. It's all a time that is working throughout the millennia to connect our experiences today with the eternal values and truth of the Torah. But just looking at the passage that deals with the Sfirat HaOmer, and that is chapter 23, verse 9. And again, this is a connection with the land of Israel, and I'm going to read out the passages. So verse 10, Daber el bnei Yisrael va'amarta alehem ki sovo el ha'aretz. Speak to the children of Israel, and you will say to them, when you come to the land asher ani nosein lachem, that I am giving to you, u'ketzartem es ketzira, and you reap its harvest. V'havesem es omer reishis ketzirchem el hakohen. You will bring an omer measure from the first of your reaping to the priests. And so that is talking about the actual omer offering. And then it carries on, verse 15, Tesvav. Usafartem lachem mimachros hashabbos miyom haveachem es haomer hatanuva sheva shabbosos tmimas tiyena. And you will count for yourself on following the first rest day. Shabbos is actually referring to Pesach, not the Shabbos of the week, the day of the week, but the Shabbos, the festival of Pesach is here being referred to as Shabbos. Miyom haviachem es haomer hatanufa, the day you bring the omer as a wave offering. Sheva shabbosos tmimas tiyena, you should count for yourself 7 complete weeks. And this is another form of higher education. The first form of higher education is the instruction given to the Kohanim, to the priests, to teach about Tahara and Tumah, the concepts of purity and impurity, ritual concepts, but equally can apply to us in our behavior, in our language, in our dress, in our thought, again to really be constantly refining ourselves in all these areas of our lives. And then similarly, we have this connector of the Omer that is being given equal coverage in the account of all of the annual festivals. And this linkage between Pesach and Shavuot, sometimes referred to as a very long Chol HaMoed, that if we see Pesach as the beginning of this unique festival, Shavuot as the end, and the days in between as the days of Chol HaMoed that are really taking from the essence of both of these two festivals. And this period is a time of higher education, and we see it in the different offerings that are brought and that I just read out before, that we bring. The barley offering, the Omer offering that we bring on Pesach is barley, which is considered to be animal food. The offering that we bring on Shavuot is made from wheat, which is more refined and considered human food on a higher level. And we are meant to achieve this transition because when we are liberated from the land of Egypt, and interestingly enough, the concept of simcha is not mentioned in connection with the festival of Pesach, because on Pesach we experienced physical liberation. Physical liberation is very appreciated, and it is a great miracle to be liberated from captivity, and a miracle that we are praying for in real time as we're living now. But when you're physically free, you then need to work on your capacity for refinement, for spirituality, and this is what we are working towards. This is what we are aiming for as we progress towards Shavuot, when we achieve spiritual freedom with the festival of Shavuot, with the receiving of the Torah on the 6th and 7th of Sivan. And so I think that when we look at these themes that apply, the messages that apply, of educating future generations, and really, when you educate anyone, you need to educate yourself first, and in that way you can share, you can transmit, and really we are concentrating on the spiritual purity as combining it with physical life, but really showing and leading the way of this refined way of living, embracing of life that we see, that we get from the commandments that are mentioned in connection with the Kohanim at the beginning of the week Sedra. And then we have another form of higher education in terms of the Omer that is mentioned in this week's Sedra. And I would like to conclude with reading out from lessons, one of the sichos of Rav Schneerson, who picks up on the word that I mentioned earlier about lahazhir, that Rashi says this is lahazhir, that the older Kohanim have to warn. This is normally understood as warning. But there's also the word Zohar included in lahazhir, and Zohar means light, and Zohar is also the very esoteric work by Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. This is called the Zohar. It was this pure, shining spiritual light, but it is referring to light in other contexts as well. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, I believe, so powerfully and beautifully, education is a never-ending process that needs to grow constantly on a daily basis, bringing many positive qualities to our children so that they literally shine with light. And I think that when we really absorb these words, when we absorb this message, when we use the unique energy of this time of year to bring light to ourselves at a time of challenge and difficulty, to bring light to those around us, and to pray that this light should illuminate the hearts and minds of all humanity, and really bring us closer to being able to receive the Torah in as we're working towards that right now, and imagine and live the truth of what happens when the Torah is the true and only higher education. Thank you very much. Wishing everyone Shabbat Shalom.